If you're thinking about buying a property in BC to flip and make a profit, something like a fixer-upper to renovate, or a property that you're going to hold short term because you think the market's going to go up rapidly, you might need to pump the brakes on that idea. The BC government is proposing legislation that will tax the profit you make if you flip the property in the short term. Basically, anytime in the first 2 years, if you flip that property, there's going to be a tax on the profit, and it could be as much as 20%. In this video, we'll go over 5 things that you need to know about BC's new flipping tax and how they could apply to you. And make sure you stick around until the end of the video because there are some exemptions that I'm sure you're going to want to know about too. I'm Tyrell Boake, a realtor in Kelowna, and on this channel, I help you navigate the real estate market and provide you with useful information so you can make informed decisions that make sense for you. If you get any kind of value out of this type of content, hit the like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss out on future videos. If approved, the BC government will enact the new provincial flipping tax and it will be effective January 1st, 2025. There are at least 5 key points that you need to know about if you're thinking about buying or selling a home as a flip or owning it short term, and they don't just apply to single-family detached homes either. The first thing you need to know about the flipping tax is that it will apply to the taxable income gained on a property sold during the first 730 days or 2 years of ownership. If you sell within the first year, the tax will be 20% on the profit gained. Thereafter, there will be a sliding prorated scale on how much you'll be charged between years 1 and the end of year 2. The tax will apply to housing units, so this isn't just your single-family homes, but it's also townhomes and condos, as well as bare land that's designated for residential use, as well as assignments of contracts. That's right, if you buy a pre-construction condo, let's say, and decide to sell it before it's complete, you will be taxed on the profit that you make on that assignment if it's done within the first 2 years. But I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the video. One key exemption is that the new proposed tax will not apply to First Nations land. So if you could find a mobile home, let's say that's on a leased rental pad and renovate that, flip it and make a profit, or some other property that's on leased land and make a profit on your flip, you wouldn't be caught up in BC's new flipping tax. However, you need to keep in mind that there are probably other tax implications that are still involved. The fourth thing that you need to know about BC's new flipping tax is that it will be retroactive. That's right, even if the new tax isn't going to be in effect until January 1st, 2025, if you purchased a property in 2023 or 2024, you could still be taxed on the profit retroactively should you decide to sell. So even if you've already bought the property before the tax comes into place, this is something that you need to keep in mind if you're looking to sell your home anytime in 2025. The last thing we should point out is that BC's new proposed flipping tax will be separate and in addition from any federal anti-flipping taxes which are already in place, which could classify any profit you make on a flip as business income. But that's a video for another day. I mentioned earlier that I would go over what happens with pre-construction or assignments of contract. When it comes to pre-construction, for the purposes of the flipping tax, your acquisition date, the day that your 2-year window starts, is the day that you enter into the contract to buy that property and not the date that it's complete. On an assignment, or in other words, if you buy a pre-construction contract from another consumer or anyone separate from the developer, your acquisition date is the day that you enter into that assignment. Any profit gained from assigning that contract, if it's within the first 730 days, would be subject to the flipping tax. Before we talk about the exemptions for BC's new flipping tax, let's recap a little bit. The tax is applicable for the first 2 years. It applies to housing units, bare properties zoned for residential use, and assignment sales. It does not apply to First Nation lands. It is retroactive to purchases made in 2023 and 2024, and it is separate and in addition to federal anti-flipping rules. And what about those exemptions that I mentioned earlier? There are a few available, and a lot of them apply to life circumstances like death, divorce, illness, relocations for work, and insolvency. Additional exemptions are available for builders who put an additional dwelling unit on the property, or the property was purchased for the purpose of constructing buildings. What that last part means, your guess is as good as mine, and I guess we'll have to wait and see till the legislation comes out what it actually means. Does it mean they purchased the property and put buildings on it? Or does it mean that they just purchased it for the purpose of building something on it and then sold it before they put the buildings on it? I don't know. Lastly, there would be a primary residence deduction of $20,000 off the taxable amount if the property you flip was your primary residence and you lived there for at least a year. At the end of the day, this is yet another tax that you're going to have to keep in mind when you're buying and selling property. And depending on your goals and your timelines, it may or may not apply to you. If you have more questions about the flipping tax, I would recommend to you, as I do to all of my clients, to speak to a taxation expert, as these are just the basics of the proposed new tax, and I'm not a tax expert. But if you'd like to book a call with me to talk about real estate, hit the first link in the description where you can book a time that works best for you. Any comments about the new flipping tax, good or bad, can be left in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.